So, friends, we are back to a serious issue. I did a Arvind Kejriwal roast on the Hindi YouTube, which all of you said you loved. It was Ek Bangla Bane Nyara. If you want, you can go check it out. It's on my Facebook as well as on the Hindi YouTube. Most of you said you couldn't control your laughter and you had never seen this side of me. Well, sometimes one is sarcastic, and on serious issues, one is sarcastic. So do check out on the Hindi YouTube my roast. I think that's my first roast on this channel or on any channel of Arvind Kejriwal called a Bangla Ek Bangla Bane Nyara. So do check it out. Now on the serious issue, that's completely satire with hard-hitting issues involved. Cabinet expansion has become a major topic and it is a very important and required topic. Why is it required? While we can roast Arvind Kejriwal, why we can make fun of anybody, the serious issue is that there are enough problems plaguing our country, and a good cabinet, people you vote, the elected leaders, are always important to tackle individual departments or to fundamentally change the direction of any big department, any big sector, any big industry. And it is needed now. Frankly, a good cabinet is always needed, not now. It is needed since in every government it's needed. This time, generally there are 2-3 reshuffles. This time there were rumors that it will happen in March 2020. But then COVID hit us and everything took a backstage. And now it is being reliably reported from many quarters, including yesterday Navika Kumar in her debate. Incidentally, at 9 p.m., I am on Navika Kumar debate on West Bengal, and certain allegations being made on judges and the entire the case filed by Mamata Banerjee against Suvendu Adhikari. So I am on Times Now at 9 p.m. So she broke and she gave some names, which with her sources, reliable sources. And some other journalists are also murmuring that the expansion is definitely happening. That's what everybody says. Subject to it's the prerogative of the Prime Minister. Names, different people have different sources, and some of it is informed guesses also. So I am going to speak about what I believe are some of the likely names, which can be in cabinet, which should be in cabinet, and you also add on to what you think are the likely names in the cabinet. If you are joining for the first time, please subscribe to the channel, press the bell icon and keep joining live. And do go and see the Kejriwal roast. It's my first roast. Give me your feedback. All those who watched it seem to love it. On Facebook, it's going viral. On YouTube, people are loving it. I've not seen how many views have happened, but do go and check it out on the Hindi YouTube called Ek Bangla Bane Nyara. So when a cabinet expansion has to happen, there are 2-3 factors which have to be taken into consideration. One is state-wise representation. Second is which are the states going to poll. These are 2 political considerations which every prime minister has to take into factor. Which are the states going to poll? Usually, the cabinet reshuffle is overwhelmingly tilted towards the big states going to election, which in this case would be 7-8 months ago, 7-8 months away. The 5 states, Uttar Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Punjab, Goa, etc., Gujarat, which will also happen. So that next year would have all this. So obviously, with all this happening, these states would primarily be the focus. And of course, you will have something coming from other states. And 2 states, in fact, 1 state, West Bengal, where the election never seems to end. And it's sometimes when a thing becomes set, it is almost set that the election will only end in West Bengal, I think, with 2024. BJP made it a very big election. Mamata Banerjee won that election, and a lot of people who voted for her or the third front would need a few faces. Could be Sharad Pawar, could be this. This is all political assessments. So that election is not going to end anytime soon. And since it's political, so I thought I will start with West Bengal. One of the people BJP could have made, and minister is no longer in BJP. He's from West Bengal. He's gone back to his parent party, I think, TMC. So what is left now is either likelihood. If you bring somebody from West Bengal, the likelihood is you either bring Dilip Ghosh or you bring Dinesh Trivedi. These appear to be the front runners if you bring somebody from West Bengal. Suvendu Adhikari is the leader of opposition in West Bengal Assembly, a very important and vital role for BJP he has to play, because end of the day, the state, a strong local leader on the state develops the party like nobody's business. And let's see how it goes for him, how he emerges as a face. He defeated Mamata Banerjee in a direct election. Well, that election has been challenged in High Court, for which we are having a debate because certain allegations have been made, certain unparliamentary comments have been made on the Honorable High Court judge. We will discuss that. So West Bengal, it is these options which look likely to come, and a normal course, West Bengal would have happened before the election, but as I said, and as you know, COVID and no reshuffle happened for 2 years in this government because of COVID. Let's take, a lot of people are talking about Dr. Swamy also. I will come to it state by state and certain people who are not from any state, but the entire. Second state, and the most vital state, I would say, in the terms of 2024 election, Uttar Pradesh. I again and again say, I don't have a magic ball. We can have opinions who will win, but nobody has a magic ball, especially 8 months before the election. If BJP wins Uttar Pradesh, I think people can shout or scream, but 90% then BJP is sweeping 2024. 90%. If they lose, then I say 2024 can be a tough election. So in that sense, this UP election is very important, and whom you bring from cabinet from UP is very important. Because also remember, I give this example often enough, 2009, Congress was the second largest party in the Lok Sabha from Uttar Pradesh, just 1 or 2 seats behind Samajwadi Party. Mayawati, the sitting chief minister, her party was third, BJP was fourth. And if 2012 would have been won by Rahul Gandhi instead of Akhilesh Yadav, 2014 would have been very different. BJP decisively won 2017. Sorry. BJP decisively won 2017 UP, and in 19 it increased its vote and increased its seats from 282 to 303. 282 was for a lot of people unimaginable. That was the highest ever BJP vote share, seat share, etc. And they topped it because they won 2017. It's not linear, but it's very connected. So this election is very important. Now, who are the prominent faces one can see coming from Uttar Pradesh? Well, one of the most prominent faces and promising faces, I think, and I tweeted about him today also, Varun Gandhi, and Times Now also covered it. Likely to come into the cabinet is from Uttar Pradesh, Varun Gandhi, for multiple reasons. One, he has won his own election 3 times, including in 2009, when BJP did not do very well in Uttar Pradesh. So it is a leader who, there being no way for BJP, there being nothing going for BJP in a state level, 14 anybody winning, I don't think so, it's a big deal. It was Modi ji vote. It was Narendra Modi vote. Anybody would have won. Frankly, if the party gave you ticket in UP, or if the party gave you ticket in Delhi, you would have won. If the party gave me ticket, I would have won. Anybody would have won. If the party chose X, Y, Z, it was, people were voting very clearly Modi ji. 2009 was very different. Manmohan Singh got a positive vote. He increased his 2004 seats. And in those circumstances, if I remember correctly, only 10 people won from Uttar Pradesh. Only 10 people from BJP won from Uttar Pradesh, in which one was Varun Gandhi. The other was his mother, Menaka Gandhi. 14 he won, 19 he won. So you need people who will bring in votes to the party, who will add on to the party, who will increase the footprint of the party, who can win on their name. So that is one name. And multiple other factors: young leader, intellectual leader, mass base, and a lot of connectivity with various people, which is all adding on to the party. So Varun Gandhi, I think, is a strong candidate. Then the other candidate could be very interesting. There has become a perception that BJP has a problem with the vote of Brahmins in UP. That depends on the party's assessment. And they brought Jitin Prasad. But I do not think Jitin Prasad would be brought into the central cabinet. Unlikely. If at all he is brought in, I think it's way more likely he will be brought into the, even though it's very few months left, into Uttar Pradesh cabinet. Into the Uttar Pradesh cabinet. That is more likely. Then what is the other possibilities and possible names we have to discuss? It could either be in UP if you bring more. Do you want to, and you have to give community representation. That's a reality of our politics. Let's be very clear. That's the reality of our politics. BJP would have to think they want to bring another Jat in, or they have already established big Jat leadership in the cabinet, Sanjeev Banyal ji. So whether Mr. Balyan is, they need to add on to it, or they think that we already have it and by bringing a minister, no votes will change on the ground. Because it's my perception, Western UP BJP is not in the position it was, definitely not in the position it was in 2014 elections, 2017 elections, even 2019 elections, vis-a-vis the vote there. Whether they want to address it, they feel they've already addressed it, that is, we have to see. Then, a state where, frankly, the elections are far away, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Chhattisgarh, and likelihood of people being brought from there would likely be in, if you do a reshuffle in 22 or end of 22, maybe 1 year from now, if you do small reshuffle, this is expected to be a big one. This is expected to be a dramatic, big one. Obviously, only Modi ji knows, or not any prime minister. We have to be honest. In UP era, it was not the prime minister probably deciding the cabinet. Many reports say there were multiple players involved, including actively journalists being able to lobby. That's not happening here. So one can say that it will be a final stamp would be of the prime minister. Inputs any leader should take, and one presumes that the prime minister also takes. Where is my muffler? That was a roast of Kejriwal. You can see it on the Hindi channel. If you have asked me, where is the muffler? That was funny one. This is a serious one. This is a hardcore, serious one. That was funny one. You can check it there. Okay. So, Dr. Swami, we will discuss that. Even though I don't see much change from Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, and Chhattisgarh, I see it in 2022. They may drop somebody and bring somebody, minor change. One name who's likely to get in is Scindia. Mr. Scindia is likely to come into the picture because of a very simple reason. Political reality. You are in power in Madhya Pradesh because the Congress government fell. The person who made the Congress government fall was none other than Mr. Scindia, and by political logic, you have to reward it. Somebody brought you state government, and let nobody doubt it. Being in power is extremely important to any political party. You can only do anything good if you have power. You can only build, let me give you another example. We can only build a network. You say, very often I get this question on networks. And I'm doing a conversation on Sunday on networks, along with people discovering their Sanatani roots and building a network. This network exists because you survive to this. Not survive, one second. You subscribe to this channel, so the network builds. If you subscribe to it, if you like it, if you share it, then the network keeps growing bigger. We started in April and we are already, it's not even two, no, it's 2 months, right? And it's barely 2 months and we are already 70,000 strong. So the network gets built. When the network gets built, what I say reaches more people. Power is 1,000 times more than that. Only if you are in power can you do anything substantively good for the nation. Only then you can do it. So the Madhya Pradesh government for BJP was extremely important. He brought in, so likelihood is he will be rewarded. I think that's very likely he would be rewarded, and which is as it is. What department he gets, what ministry he gets is something we have to see. Another interesting name is the Leh MP. I'll have to check how many people or how many MPs from Leh have been a minister. But it will be a very interesting choice, a very inspired choice in terms of giving representation to areas which have not traditionally had a very strong cabinet representation. That's my view. Maybe there has been some MP from there who's been a minister, and I would have to check. But generally, it gets dominated, used to be dominated from Kashmir. The CM used to be dominated from Valley. The ministerial representation used to be dominated from Kashmir, and giving it from Leh as a symbol in a symbolic way is extremely interesting and inspired choice, and that could happen. That could happen, so that inspired choice is very good. Let's go ahead. Oh yeah, Pawan Kalyan from Andhra Pradesh, that's an interesting name. And Leh MP, a lot of people are doing a thumbs up. As I said, sometimes you have to send a message and give empowerment, ministerial empowerment to places which need ministerial empowerment. That is one part. Secondly, development. Obviously, a minister from there, Leh, is so crucial now. Has always been, but it's unbelievably, and would be a good choice. I think would be a good choice. And whatever I have heard of his speech, that viral speech we have all heard, appears to be a good choice. I don't know him personally, but appears to be a great choice. And on both the factors, a good voice as well as the representation to an area. Then obviously Assam. Very gracefully, Mr. Sonowal, the former Chief Minister of Assam, in a very disciplined manner, stepped aside, and likelihood of him being inducted is extremely high, but there are some people who say he wants to stay in the state and be the state president. I don't know. See, politicians also have to decide what they want. What do they think is better? What do they think is better for the politics they want to do? What is better for where they can help? So I've heard two views. One view is he wants to be the state president. One view is that he will be accommodating cabinet, but he's obviously a strong face, chief minister. Other part is you need good administrators in the cabinet. One of my views is Modi ji needs to bring in people who are very competent and whom he trusts, so that they run the government. There is a lot of voice that this government is disproportionately run with very strong bureaucrats reporting to the PMO. So that's something, as I said, needs to be taken a call at. So he could be there. The other is if you decide to bring any former chief minister for administrative experiences, that's a call, a political sort of a call. There are a lot of former chief ministers of BJP. Do you want to bring them? Is a political call. What about Smriti Irani? She's already a minister. Departments, there is no point of guessing. I'm not even getting into that. If you're asking me departments, I am not even getting into the department angle, because that is like kite flying. Nobody can predict. You can't even make a reasonable, logical guess. You can make a wish list. You can make a wish list. This should be there. This should be there. This one should have that. But frankly, there is no relevance of discussing that. There is zero relevance of discussing that. because that none of us can discuss or predict. You might as well fly a kite, and it's you can ask me wish list of who should run what cabinet. Wish list is a good question, but a sensible discussion on any parameters of facts on any ministerial responsibility in this government, you are wasting your time. You are wasting your time. Okay, now let us go ahead. A lot of you, and one or two points I have to cover, but a lot of you are asking about Dr. Swamy. I did not start this video by speaking about him because I'm extremely fond of him. He's an extremely great person. He is, how many of you know in India people who have authored papers with Nobel laureates in economics, not one of those peace and this and that inaccurate subjects, in economics, who's taught at Harvard when I think was probably the first professor from Asia, India, I think definitely from Asia, who taught in 1960s in Harvard, was a full professor at IIT. So you need brilliant people in. But I don't speak much about it because obviously you know my views on him. And I am trying to have an objective analytical discussion. I'm trying to have an objective analytical discussion. Right? My views on him are, obviously you know them. You know them. So, okay, now other interesting things. There are rumors that it could be Mr. Jay Panda from Odisha. Mr. Bhupinder Yadav as Navika covered. No doubt, very competent person. No doubt, one of the big troubleshooters for the government. He gets handed in charge as a general secretary of the party. Very difficult and tricky states. Difficult and tricky states. Bihar was a very tricky state. So difficult and tricky states, somebody who handles is obviously a man who has lot of competencies, lot of abilities, and lot of handling of difficult situations. So that is definitely a good induction if the government does it, if the Prime Minister does it. And some people are asking me about Karnataka. There is again, BJP is going through a phase of certain amount of state issues also. In Rajasthan, there are defined state issues with Vasundhara Raje, the former chief minister. Very clearly there are issues, nobody can deny it. Only a BJP proper spokesperson or a BJP, office bearer would deny. There are issues there in Rajasthan. Equally, there are issues in Karnataka with the chief minister. Whether that is internal issues, the MLAs are speaking, whether it is backed by center in Rajasthan, whether it is certain MLAs speaking backed by center, that is all subject of a detailed discussion with people who are broadly covering every point. But the reality is that I do not see the Karnataka chief minister being removed or brought to center. Neither do I really think Vasundhara Raje would be brought to center. So Raman Singh as a chief minister, whether he is brought or not, is something to be seen. That's Mr. Fadnavis, as you said. So as I said, what do you do with former chief minister? Please understand, if you are made a minister here, let's say Mr. Fadnavis, firstly, he should want it. And why I say he should want it when I said same thing with Mr. Sonowal. If you come to center, please be very clear. You will not be able to focus or pay that much attention to the state politics. It's a very demanding job. You can't multitask too much. There are state issues. You have to tour the state. You have to raise voices on regional specific state issues. You have to do press conferences. You have to do administrative pruning of the party, organizational pruning of the party, joining somebody, removing somebody. So you need to do all that. Whether Mr. Fadnavis, if he comes here, obviously the human being has this much time. Maharashtra is a huge state with a huge coalition government, very strong coalition government. And BMC polls are coming. So whether firstly the individual concerned, whether he wants to come to center and whether the party thinks that Bringing somebody from center, then who is the state leadership? Which would be the state leadership? Those then become questions. So we'll have to see that also. What happens there? It is not only about will the Metro man E. Sridharan? I think so. I think he should be made. I think he should have been made earlier only. I think definitely that's a person who should definitely. There is no, in my mind, not one paisa doubt. Some will say he's old. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with this age factor at all. We have seen so unfortunately, relatively young ministers in 60s, relatively young ministers. How many we have seen, unfortunately? Mr. Anand Kumar, Karnataka, Mr. Arun Jaitley, Madam Sushma Swaraj, Mr. Manohar Parrikar, so many with access to the best medical facilities. God has his own ways, and comparatively young people. So I think this age is a complete bumcum. And if Yadurappa ji can be the chief minister, which is honestly more demanding than being a cabinet minister, I think being a chief, because you are the head. Here, there is a collective responsibility, and you are all a council of ministers, and the head is prime minister. Head is also, there are sometimes cabinet committees which are head, right? So in that sense, I don't think so age is a factor, and should be considered. And I definitely think the Metro man should be in the cabinet. Okay. And why it is needed? Yes. Now let us discuss objectively. As I always told you, some of the things you would like, some of the things you will not like. Objectively, 2-3 things. Price rise is becoming an issue. Price rise is the issue. Economy is the issue. Jobs is the issue. They are always been issues. Sometimes they become a little bit more. Sometimes they become a little bit less. Right now, these issues are more. Why these issues are more? Because we had COVID. That has obviously shaken the economy. So when you have these issues, then those issues need a lot of focus. Health, economy, both need a lot of focus. And that is why a major cabinet reshuffle, Modi 3030 needs to come into. So we pick all of this. Is Sachin Pilot joining BJP? We can have a session on Congress which is separate, which is not connected to this. So Manohar Parrikar ji was the best, one of the best. Great individual. That's why I said age is just a number. It's God who decides how much time you have. COVID, at least we know. So many young have gone, so God decides. Anybody who's fit, and Metro Man is very fit, he did a grueling campaign, should be in. On principle, that's my view. Anyways, take care and see you whenever I see you. Do check the Hindi video. A lot of people enjoyed it.